Hello, this is Mrs. Kuiper, and this is my Zoom of our science lesson 1.2. For most of the science lessons, what we're going to be doing is recording the offline activities, which would be whatever the offline worksheet is, or the offline experiment, and that's what our mini lessons are going to be. So for today, I'm going through the offline activity for lesson 1.2. I also think that you should know that we've been having some issues, apparently for some students, for them to move from one lesson to the next. A learning coach has to log on. So we're trying to resolve some of these issues for you. Right now, I'm just going to go over the offline lesson for 1.2. So let me share my screen, and here we go. Okay, so for the offline lesson, where lesson 1.2 is talking about scientific tools and what their purposes are. So we basically have three categories of purposes for scientific tools. One of the purposes is, of course, safety. So I am going to go through and I am going to basically highlight the pictures of items, basically tools that we would use for safety. So the first one would be an apron. When you're conducting experiments, oftentimes you have to wear aprons. Sometimes they're fabric. Sometimes they're kind of a leather or a really thick type of lead-lined apron, basically just to keep you safe if you're mixing chemicals or doing that sort of thing. Also, the fire extinguisher would be considered a safety tool. Okay, if you're using a Bunsen burner or something like that, or you're heating something up just in case something catches fire, you would always have that fire extinguisher. So let's look at these other items. We have a terrarium or a fish tank, a calculator, a balance or a scale, a cell phone to take pictures, a graduated beaker here. We have goggles and gloves. Oh, wait, goggles and gloves. That definitely keeps us safe during experiments. My students are always wearing goggles when we do our rockets unit here at school. Okay, we have a magnet, we have a net. These are called graduated cylinders. They actually have markings on them that measure liquid. This would be a hot plate or a burner. This would be a lamp that's putting light on things. A magnifying glass, is that a safety tool? Not really. Measuring spoons. This would be a microscope. Okay, let's see if I can scroll down to the next page. Well, this is just the first page here. Okay. So we have tools that are for safety. So before I go on to the next page here, I'm gonna we're gonna go through some of the other tools. The other two main categories of tools are going to be tools for investigating and tools for measuring. So I'm gonna use bright green to circle my tools for measuring. So definitely a scale is used to measure, okay? We could use this beaker to measure because it does have measuring marks on it. All right, let me see, the graduated cylinders, they have measuring marks on them. And I would say the measuring spoons, we're actually going to use those in a couple days here to measure some liquids. Those are all items tools that could be used for measuring. So I'm going to put green for measure, and let's come back up here and grab the red. And maybe the red is S for safety, tools for safety. And then let's grab a blue, and this is going to be blue for investigation. Okay, so the rest of these tools are tools that we would use in science for investigation, like a fish tank, okay, or a cell phone that we're using to maybe take a picture or video of something so that we can do some observations. Magnets, we might use that to conduct an investigation. A net, we might use that to catch things to conduct an investigation. The hot plate, the microscope, the magnifying glass, and even the lamp here, which looks like it's heating up some plants or some water or providing light. Those would all be tools for investigation. So let's move to the second page. Okay, let's do investigation for the second page. We know we're going to do I for investigation in blue. Okay, so the science notebook, I'm going to use that for investigations. The hot pad. That's what I use in the kitchen to pick up hot things so I don't burn myself. So I think that would be safety. So I'm going to get my red and I'm going to mark a box around it. So red is for safety. Measuring tape and a stopwatch. Those are things that measure. So I want to get my green for that. I chose green. And so green means measure. So a measuring tape and a stopwatch are tools that we would use to measure with. And down here is a reminder. The terrarium, you know, I almost think that would be something, we would be observing this and looking at how things change. I think that's going to be an investigation tool. So I'm going to circle that in blue. Okay, thermometers. Thermometers measure temperature. So that would be a measuring tool. This is a spring weight. So basically you hold it and you click on something and it will weigh it just by having it up in the air. Just there's a spring on there that will actually weigh it. So that would be a tool to measure. And of course, so are our rulers. Rulers would be measuring tools, right? What about the watering can? I don't measure with it. And it's not necessarily a safety tool. So I'm going to call that an investigation tool. It might be something that I would use to water plants that I was investigating or something along that line. And this is an eyedropper. Eyedroppers just help you to suck up liquid and then move liquid from one place to another safely. But it's not really a safety thing. It's more of an investigative tool. So I'm going to circle that blue for investigation. Now on the offline activity, it says to download, cut out the pictures, and then paste them in the 3 categories. You could absolutely do that into your science journal, or you could just do what I did and make a list. So I'm going to come back to my Zoom here, I'm going to show you back behind me. What I did is I know this is backwards, but this is a list. Let me see if my science notebook will show up backwards. Yep, it does show up backwards. I wonder why that is. I'll have to try to figure that out. So basically, I made myself a list: tools for measuring, tools for investigations, and tools for safety. And I just made a list of the items. If you're an art person, you could draw a picture of the types of items that you would use for safety, for investigation, or for measuring during science classes. Or if you just want to hold off on that and add things to these categories as we go through our investigations and our experiments, you could do that too. So this has been the recording for lesson 1.2. See you later.